Welcome back, everybody. Hello, YouTube. How are you doing? My name is Bardicdice, and we are back live on the internet with Bardic Brews Road to the Netherdeep. Super excited. I actually pressed record before I went live this time, so we don't have to restart. We're good to go. And I'm being joined by, girl, you fresh to death today, Nick from PITV Studios with a brand new haircut just for Bardic Brews. How you doing, buddy?
Exclusively for Bardic Brews, actually. That's what I told my barber. I was like, look, I'm gonna be on a show tonight.
Yep. We're gonna glue all the hair back on for next week.
Nothing like getting your hair cut and drinking bourbon, though. So. And
losing our glasses thanks to Sassy Fire. You're part of this now, buddy.
They're not even prescription.
You are part of it now. But thank you guys so much for joining us, especially for those who are catching us on VOD or on YouTube. My name is Bardicdice. I like to stream on Twitch twice during the week on D&D, and we are doing our player interviews for up-and-coming campaign Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep with our buddy Nick here from PITV Studios. Super excited to get into this. We also stream a homebrew on Thursdays, so this game will be on Wednesdays coming up here starting next week with our Rivals one shot. It's gonna be super fun. Check it out. So this will be Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I also stream on Thursdays with a homebrew game, Fates United. But that's not why we're here. So we're here to get to open up the DM screen, open up the player screen a little bit, and take some time to get to know the player behind the character. A lot of times we focus on the character and who they're at, or if they don't smile the entire game, so it's hard to get to know the player behind it. But before we get started today, before we jump right in, Nick, why don't you introduce yourself, what you do in general, or if you are on Twitch, and plug your stuff, dude.
But yeah, I'm PITV Studios, or Nick. I do stream. I haven't in a long time. But that should be coming back. Long story short, lots of life stuff coming up. I'm probably going to be assuming a new role at my company soon, so lots of good stuff, stressful stuff, bad stuff. So I had to kind of take a step away. But if you like photoshopping, photo bashing, D&D talking, and a lot of this stuff we'll probably do tonight between Mike and I. You can look forward to that sometime soon. No promises. Hopefully in like a couple weeks I might do a random stream, but we'll see. Procrastination's been itching, so.
That's what I really like, the fact that I think everyone here in the tavern and the community that we share with, we're all on board with like mental health breaks, and hey guys, we're gonna skip a week or we're gonna take a break from streaming, and like we're all still here to support everyone when they come back, almost enforce when they come back. I really love the community we built, and alongside you, bringing you in. I mean, we've known each other how long now? Like when did you join? When did we like join? It was like a year ago, right?
Almost.
Crazy.
It's been about like 10 and a half, 11 months maybe.
I love it. It's so exciting.
Something like that.
Well, before we jump into the questions and tonight, and a lot of the improv and the many times we put on and lose our glasses, Nick here is a returning player from our last campaign, The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which will be up on YouTube here shortly, but most of you are able to see what a woman came from that. And I'm excited to see potentially what a man's gonna happen in this game. So
that is right, ladies and gentlemen. I do have a penis this time.
That's all he changed. That's it. Everything else is the same. We like to promote and throw that out there. But he's going to be joining the table this time in Call of the Netherdeep. So before we jump in, we'll go ahead and roll the intro for a super exciting game of Call of the Netherdeep. Yeah, I'm so excited. Starting next week, July 6th, we're gonna kick it off with our Rivals one shot, and then right afterwards, we're gonna kick it off with introducing Nick and Brittany's characters and where they're at behind it coming into this. So 2 weeks, man. 2 weeks. So you are going to be returning to the table without spoilers. Why don't we kick this off? Who are you playing?
I am playing a character by the name of Desmond Thorne. He's actually a old character that I played in another campaign, but I'm very, very excited to give it a go this time. Long story short, some things happened in the other campaign, so hoping that I'm sure this one's gonna be a lot better. So
Nah, fam. You know,
yeah, he's
I'm repeating the same thing that happened before.
He is a human, so you know, hate me if you want, but a feat at first level is rather attractive.
Yep. That's actually I'm in the same exact issue going into like a new character that I'm creating. It's like, God, I do not want to play variant human, but like I need this feat. Like I need it at first level, and I'm like, this sucks. But I think I'm like buying into that. Okay, you know, if I'm gonna do human, how crazy? How can I stretch this out and make it different than normal? So,
humans are fun.
I don't like humans. As a D&D thing, I'm like, I'm a human in real life. I'm boring in real life.
On principle.
On principle. I want to be a not human going in, even if I look like a human on any other race. I don't know why. I'm just that way. Like mechanically, 100%. I love them. But like, just for me, it's like, man, I'm already human coming into it. Why do I want to? And yet I'm probably going to be a human coming up. So hypocrite.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right. Hey, as long as I can get a fresh cut like yours, I'll be all right.
Well, I got a barber shop I can recommend. So.
Okay, good. All right. So let's reveal back. Let's take back the character sheet. Let's strip down the DM level. Yeah, we're stripping here. Let's take it all off. Actually, no, I like Ashley's sweatshirt. It's dang on, okay? Back off. Yeah, by the way, mature audiences tonight is coming back. So, you know, we're just chilling and hanging out.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here and I am rather mature, so.
So, for the audience, Nick, who are you? What was your life growing up? Give us a little spotlight into who little child Nick was.
So, it may surprise everybody, but Desmond is human, but so am I. I am a human.
Get out. We're done. We're done. We're shutting it down.
I took my bonus feat at first level as well.
Okay. What's your feat? If you had a feat in real life, what would be the bonus feat that you took in real life?
Definitely something charisma based, I feel.
Okay. I feel inspiring leader. I'm just saying. I'm just
That's what
saying.
Desmond took.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I can see it. Okay.
But no, I mean, I had a pretty regular life, I'd say. Born and raised in and around Columbus, Ohio. So the Ohio State University, you know,
Ohio State?
which by the way is legally trademarked now.
Is it really?
Last week.
Wow.
The is trademarked by the Ohio State University.
That
I won't go on too much of a tangent on that.
That feels so disgusting, yet I'm proud of them at the same time.
Well, it was, but when I found out why, it's because another company was trying to trademark it out from under them so that they could sell merch and not get in trouble. So OSU had to trademark it. But anyway.
I got you.
But yeah, so the Nick grew up in and around Columbus. I'm the youngest of three, so I have two older sisters.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, so what's
the age difference?
My oldest sister is 37. My next sister is 33, and I am 31. So, so yeah, not
such a baby.
Yeah, definitely the baby. My dad wanted a boy, and he got a girl, then got another girl, and then was kind of like, let's try this again. And then here comes me. That's how I got here. They tapped out after that. They were like, all right, we got the boy. We're good.
Let's do it. Vasectomy, let's
go. For my sister's sake, thank God it wasn't China.
Hashtag mature audiences. Get us off your church projector right now.
But yeah, my parents were always really cool and supportive of everything. They kind of let us do
That's really cool though.
whatever we wanted, and I mean I was the good child. I always like to say that. But I also have to credit both of my sisters for going first, because they set a lot of.
It's okay to be yourself here. It's fine.
Yeah, they set a lot of boundaries that I shouldn't cross. So, and I watch, I learn. So.
Okay.
They're like, you were such a good kid. I was like, no, I just had two prime examples of what not to do.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry, sisters.
Like, oh, they get in trouble for doing that. Nah, fam.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I was actually, I was kind of similar. Just because of my sister. My sister was 7 years older than me, so we kind of had this only child syndrome between the two of us. But were you like a lot closer to them, or?
I was never really close to my oldest sister. Mm-hmm. She was. I mean, it's like a 6-year difference, so it's almost the same. It's almost the same, yeah. Like she didn't want anything to do with us.
Before you get to that age of like, hey, we can hang out and chill and not be weird. Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing that we ever bonded on really was the aggression of our middle child. So my middle sister, because there was a 4-year gap between her and my oldest sister, she would always pick on me, and because I am not allowed to fight back because it was my sister and she's a girl. I wasn't allowed to fight back. My oldest sister Kaylee would come down swinging if I ever needed her to. So yeah.
All right, real talk. How many times did you abuse that?
Not a lot, actually.
Okay, all right. So you were above the belt with your older sister. Okay.
I mean, my middle sister actually didn't really do that much. I mean, there's definitely a number of times where she like purposely, pushed it a little bit.
Right.
And that's when I had to call in the airstrike for the oldest sister, so she'd come running down.
I know exactly how that is. Also, I wanted to shout out this comment by Yacht. What a very human thing for you to say, lizard man.
Yeah.
I don't know what
you're talking about. Wait. I must sips the water because humans love water.
Yup, totally. We shall breathe at the same time. And then, of course, Sassy, who plays Brittany in our game as well, 100% is right. The two most immature guys I know, I can mention farting and Mike would die laughing, which is very true. So, I love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting this. Yeah, that's such an interesting insight into that, because I think, I don't know, it's interesting to see how different you and I are, but yet we kind of have similar family structures, and I think similar backgrounds with that. So that's actually really cool to see how that's changed, because I think I was the one that didn't follow the rules, and maybe because I didn't have that middle child in there to kind of like show that example or let her do. I guess I was the middle child and never had like the younger one to learn from me. That's really interesting. So you got your setup with that. How did that then interact with you? Because you said they were very supportive of what you did. What kind of hobbies did you get into then as a kid? Was gaming ever a part of that, or like what did your life look like?
My dad is a pretty big nerd himself.
Cool.
So when he finally got a kid that was interested in playing games and stuff, that was when it like came all out. Maybe to the surprise of my mother, but but like
your wife.
We played video games, we played board games, card games.
Oh, cool.
Like we did everything, and he was actually, which we can get into that a little bit later too. But he was actually the person who actually got me into Dungeons and Dragons.
Nice. Okay.
Because my first technical campaign that I played in was with him, so.
That's really cool. So you had that with your dad. How old were you when that happened?
I was probably like 7 or 8. I played a wizard.
No way. You played D&D that young?
Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition. So Thaco, everybody.
Hey, we're gonna get into older editions. That's crazy to me. That's wild. That's so cool.
Yeah, it didn't last long because my dad roped in the whole family. It was supposed to be a family thing. So my mom played a cleric. My other sisters both had a character. I had my character. And we played one session. And then my sisters bailed, and my mom was like, it's probably not going to work. And I'm like, okay, well.
That's sad that you did you guys ever want to do a one-on-one campaign, or like think that's possible, or was it kind of like
no, that kind of dropped off for him, and I think at the time I was probably too young to sort of appreciate that kind of play style.
Okay.
Because like I said, I was only 7, so like I was still all about that, like going outside and riding my bike and playing imagination fights with my friends with like, you know, swords and shit outside. So I wasn't to the level of looking at paper and rolling math rocks to calculate damage yet.
I got you. That's actually really cool. So yeah, so what else did you do then growing up? So that's cool that you had that exposure. My dad was really into sci-fi and nerd literature.
Yep.
But it was never really shared with me. It was kind of like, oh, if you want to read that, yeah, here's what I recommend. But like, there wasn't that literal like, hey, let's sit down and play a board game, or let's. The only thing I ever did with my dad was like, hey, we're gonna sit down and watch Star Wars together. We're gonna watch this together. It was a very like hands-off sort of like, I love sci-fi nerdom, but like, don't expect me to teach you about it. So it's really cool to see you actually have that relationship with your father, because I think that's part of the reason why, as I grew older, I was like, dads are weird and gross and like, stop embarrassing me. I kind of put the nerdom with that because of that, because I've never really been exposed to it. So it took me forever to get back into that. Did that influence your acceptance for like the nerd culture growing up, or did you also have that aspect of like where you kind of turned away from it?
No, it was mostly accepting, because like my mom was always just good with whatever we did, so long it wasn't like, you know, drugs and other bad things. But yeah, my dad, funny you say like sci-fi literature style too, because I think I just had this conversation the other day about it. But like my dad's a really, really big reader as well, and that was where he kind of gets his fantasy and sci-fi itch. So he always had the bookshelves with like full of books of things that he read. And he was a Trekkie guy, which actually, if I had thought about it, I would have actually seen if I could find it. But he is in an episode of Star Trek as an extra Klingon. Him and his friends.
No way.
Him and his friends won some contest from some con. That's like in sick. The 80s. So they were just like, all right, we need you to put on all those costumes and makeup, and basically like it was just like
that's
it was just
really cool.
A shot like cut to them of like the Klingons celebrating for some reason. So they're literally just like.
That's so cool though. I mean, like to have that like in your memory banks and to hold on to that. I mean, shoot, he can hold on to that for his whole life, and then you get to show people afterwards. I think it's so cool. Like
he still has the VHS somewhere in his house.
Of course.
He lost it, but my mom assures me that it's still somewhere.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, my dad actually used to do that too, where it'd be like, stop looking at this. You guys are going to degrade it. Sorry, nah, son, I lost the leather-bound Lord of the Rings Tolkien set. I don't know what happened to it. And I'm like, when he died, it was like the first thing I found. I was like, wow, okay. My life was a lie! Like, I was like, oh, that's the biggest dad trick ever.
But to bring it all the way back around, I think we're talking about hobbies, right?
Yep, hobbies. And like, what else? Like,
music.
What other exposures did you have as a kid besides gaming? Because we'll come back to gaming, but yeah.
Yeah, music for sure. Music's always been a big part of my life, which that was thanks to my mom. So my dad's the nerd.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the nerd, the tech guy, the like do-it-yourself kind of guy. And my mom was in like, she played the guitar since she was, I think, in middle school. So she played it like all through high school. It was her thing, and she never stopped playing it. She played and sang for our church, and so I remember growing up that I would actually, like, before I'd go to bed, because Saturday nights my mom would always practice for church, so I'd always sneak out of bed to go into the dining room where she practiced, and I would just fall asleep on the couch listening to her play the acoustic guitar. I know, it's so adorable. My mom misses that. But that, I have such an appreciation for
that's so cool.
Music, and it's such a huge part of my life because it was very impactful at an early age to me, at least. So I played the guitar, the drums. I was first chair clarinet pretty much all through middle school, high school. So first drip. Chair.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, dripping on. Yeah.
Look, I was a third chair viola, so I can't quite live up to that first chair clarinet.
Also the only boy clarinetist the whole time. So
that was on purpose.
Fellas, if you ever want to meet women, you know. But yeah, drums was definitely my biggest instrument. And
Oh, really?
I always
Okay.
wanted, yeah, I loved playing drums. I had a 13-piece electric set, and I jammed
Yeah.
the songs, and yeah.
And everyone here knows in our little hangout in the tavern, just like Amar said, your music choices are on point. So it's actually really cool to know that you played instruments as well, like early on.
I do like to say the joke, and not out of like an egotistical kind of way, but I do like to tell everybody I do not listen to bad music. So
I mean,
so everything
so far,
that I listen to is
every time I jump in that voice chat and turn on the music, I'm like, okay, no, this is grooving, man. Like I don't think there's ever been one time where I'm like, not really my jam, but okay.
Yeah, I'm not about this. Yeah, and my music choices are eclectic too. Like it's not just like one genre. It's just.
That was the one thing that surprised me, because the longest time I was like, all right, he's just listening to more like screamo rock music, because I think like you and Silent were like coming up with like a rock list for like his character one time, and so like that's what I thought, that's all you listened to. So for the longest time I never clicked off of that, because I'm like, it's just not what I feel like today. And one time I clicked on it, you just had this like lo-fi jazz, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
Yep, I love blues. Blues is really good.
So how long did you play music, and did you ever teeter away from that, like growing up?
I mean, I learned to play the guitar when I was young from my mom. So like, as a hobby, we didn't like do lessons or anything, but that sort of carried me to middle school, where I actually joined bands, and then that took me all the way through high school on the clarinet. But in school it was clarinet. Out of school, I took piano lessons from the pianist from our church, drum lessons from the drummer from our church, and then I took actual guitar lessons in high school from I can't remember the name of the place locally, but they do guitar lessons. I was branching out because I really loved playing music. That's so really cool. Yeah,
that's interesting. That's actually I mean that's how I learned guitar. There's a cute girl from my youth group that got me to join the choir. And so I was like, hey, I want an acoustic guitar so I could do that. And
did you play her Hey There Delilah? Because I certainly did that song.
It was Hey There Delilah, and then what was it? Is it Owls? Shoot, I can't remember the song.
Owl City?
Something like that. It was like her favorite song. It was like the first one I learned when I went to my teacher. I was like, I need to learn this song. They're like, maybe we should start with scales. Like, nah.
No, I need you to teach me this song, please.
This song. And like I started with that because I had a crush. And then it was like, can we go back to basics now? I'm like, yeah, that's fine now. You taught me that song.
Yep. No, guitar tabs were my best friend.
Yeah.
At least until I had guitar lessons, when I actually wanted to learn how to play and read guitar, like scales and stuff like that. So. And
you could like change the chord progression if you wanted. Oh man, we're like nerding out about music. I love this. Everyone's like, we're here for Dungeons and Dragons, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question that'll circle back to your character with music, so that'd be kind of interesting too, like how you started with that. But were you ever like into sports, or was it all kind of like band music related stuff like that?
I played soccer as a kid. To this day, I actually still like playing soccer. I don't watch soccer, but it's a fun sport to play. It's really simple. Everybody understands the rules. I'm good at hand-eye coordination, foot-eye coordination, I guess in this case, but yeah, I played soccer growing up, and then I played football in middle school. But then after I joined band, I kind of went full into music. So, but no, I do have an appreciation for sports. I'll watch football. We always watch
in my non-goalie league.
I played goalie.
Just saying.
I played goalie.
I was the unofficial goalie in the non-goalie league. So I was the kid that stood away from the little like group where everyone kicked each other's chins. And I just made sure it didn't go through the sticks at the end of the field.
It's funny you said kicking shins. I have a very distinct memory of me being an asshole. Well, no, so we played soccer with our friends, right? So like tripping is legal in soccer,
right?
As long as you do it from the front.
To an extent, yeah.
As long as it's from the front, it's legal. So, and even in our mini league. So I was playing with one of my friends in the same league, and he got tripped, and he was really mad, and and stuff like that. So I just rushed by, like I rushed past him. I chased after the guy, and I just distinctly remember just cleating him from behind in his like shin, and he just went flying over. The ref called a foul.
Worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, the coach pulled me out, but then my dad came over, and he was just like, "Hey, high five."
You like doing like, how dare you, like out loud,
Yeah,
but like, I'm really proud of you. But
just trip people from behind. You fucking got him, kid. Pound it.
Something like that happened to me. So I didn't get a chance to play tackle football because my parents said it was okay, but my friend's parents was like, no, you're playing flag football. So then my parents were like, well, if he's playing flag football, you're playing flag football. I'm like, oh, come on. So we've been playing flag football as like 8th graders versus like 6th graders, right? Because everyone's playing tackle at this point.
Yeah.
So this one kid was like our age and like decimated my friend. He was the quarterback and flag football and like tackled him. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I did like the similar thing where I like, as a kid, you just like see red and you just don't think of anything. The whistle hadn't blown yet, and I just remember running up and I gave him the arm. Or no, it wasn't the arm, it was the open hand arm. Because everyone's like, oh, you have to, anything open hand is legal. So I did this, but like such a force that it, like, you know, you don't know how strong you are. The kid flipped over and like landed, and like he wasn't even hurt, he just lost his breath. But for the rest of the game, every time I'd come up to block him, he would just fall on the ground, like, stop, man, please stop. And I was like, yo, dude, you're fine, man. But yeah, we got pulled out by the coach for the quarter. I was like, hey, go, like, I can't let you back in. Yeah, go cool off. And he's like, great play, thanks for looking out for your teammate. He's like, go take the chains, you could work those for the rest of the quarter. So me and the quarterback were working the first down chains until the quarter, because we're having fun.
Heck yeah,
it's I appreciate the effort of doing that in game. So the next question then, before we transition into like D&D then, so I know you're a big writer. And how did that get incorporated into like your life? When did that start? I know you said your dad read a lot, so did that kind of bleed into you as a kid, or like, you know?
I never actually had a desire to write growing up. Like, it didn't actually hit until high school.
Okay.
I read, like, I enjoyed reading. I didn't read as much as I probably should have, but like my dad gave me The Hobbit and then The Lord of the Rings to read, so I read those.
Nice. How old were you when you read those? That was in
maybe
5th
like
grade when I
maybe like 10.
But okay, yeah, it was about the same.
10 for The Hobbit, and then after that I read Lord of the Rings.
Did you comprehend
my
it
dad
first
was like,
as
start
well,
with this one,
or was it something you had to like come back to? Because that was me. I had to come back to it when I got older.
No, I actually rather enjoyed it.
Oh, that's cool.
Just because I like The Hobbit's a pretty short read, and it's actually kind of enjoyable. So I was already running off of that high when I got into the Fellowship, and then looking back on it now, it's probably because I appreciated the characters. But I think that's what actually kept me going, because I was like, oh, Aragorn, like, oh. Where it's like, oh, there's hobbits, and that's Frodo. Oh, he's related to Bilbo, and he was in The Hobbit, like, you know, that kind of stuff. So I was, I had like that little like young kid high, and that kind of, I think got me through everything.
I feel like Aragorn has to be everyone's like first idea of like, yo, I can do this character in D&D. I'm doing a version of him, like, whether it's your first character or not. I feel like that's always got to be on everyone's mind that like loves Lord of the Rings, as they're coming in to be like, this would be the coolest to be, you know?
Yeah, but like I think, like I said, I didn't really start having an appreciation for writing myself until it was like high school, and it wasn't until I actually started DMing, because I was like, hey, like, okay, this is actually kind of fun. So like, and that was. Like, I say I started writing in high school, but like I really didn't. I just planned my D&D sessions in high school. But in a way, it's sort of writing, right?
So it's that's creative where writing. Your love for writing started from, was actually from like DMing? Oh, that's so interesting.
Yep. Yeah, and by the time we started taking the campaigns like really seriously, and I had built up this like breadth of Lux Partum, I just had a lot of source material, so I started, you know, having fun writing little snippets or recaps, and stuff like that. And then it just one day I finally just clicked. I was like, I should just fucking write this, right?
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm really excited to break into that. That'll be actually really
and I know there aren't too many like spoilers for Netherdeep, but I have actually shared Desmond, and there are 3 chapters of him somewhere out there for people to read. So
that's why I remember.
Some people might already be familiar with him.
I remember when you said you're gonna play that, I was like, yo, I'm so in. I'm so excited for that. By the way, Brittany, of course you'd play Legolas. You would be the Legolas person, for sure. Brittany's like, I wanted to play Legolas, not Aragorn.
my friend Cernan's in chat. Legolas was the name of his first character in D&D
in
my campaign.
What's up, Cernan? Let's go.
Legolas Silverleaf, man. I got your character sheet right over there.
We did, when the One Ring edition came out, me and my buddy played, I DM'd a game for them, like, super on the fly, and he was like, I'm playing Legolas's bastard son, like Legolas. And so he was like, I'm a Legolas. And like, that was his whole thing, was like, I hate my dad. I'm gonna get after him. Except his character was Legolas. Like, it was like, I'm gonna do what he does, but better. And it was the weakest thing ever. It was awesome. I loved it. It was amazing.
Heck yeah.
Well, then let's jump into. That's really cool. I didn't know that about the writing setup. I thought it was like something different. So let's. Yeah. I'm interested to dive into the D&D side then.
I lied.
Uh-oh.
I did actually. I remember why I stopped. Okay, so I did actually write. Mm-hmm. I did actually write. I was writing a sci-fi novel when I was in like middle school, and I had like I think maybe like 10 chapters done, but then my hard drive failed, and I lost all of it. And I was really young, and I was very mad.
Nothing more like.
See, I almost forgot that because it scarred me. I was like, my backup, like my dad taught me a valuable lesson after that. It's like, that's why you got to back up everything. So I was like, okay, I'm doing it now. So I have a flash drive, I have a drive, I have a Google Cloud, I got my Microsoft One. Like,
you are such my dad.
It's saved locally and on, like, I'm all over the place.
I think I did the opposite because of my dad. My dad was like the guy who has like CDs of his hard drive or like floppy disks. You know what I mean? Like that kind of like what you're saying, like copied everything. I was like, nah, I'm gonna live on the edge of my seat. Like, I'm like, as soon as I learned that cloud-based things were a thing, I'm like, yeah, I'm not saving this. It's going on to online where I can't even get it anymore because I was stupid at the time and thought I could. Like, I think iCloud, I still have half my content up there, and I don't have an iCloud account anymore. Like, I don't know how to access it. But it's there because I can get it on my Apple TV. Like,
yep, right?
Oh, I love that, dude. I love that. I need to get better at that.
On the cloud.
So, you coming into this, I know you're probably the most experienced with TTRPGs than all of us. A lot of us seem like we came in a lot later, actually around the same time Critical Role did, which is, I think, cool that we're doing this module. What was your first? So we talked about your first intro into D&D as a kid. That was like your exposure to it. But what was like your first actual bite into it? And then also, if it's not D&D, what about other TTRPGs? Like, how did? Because you said you played a lot of card games and board games. Did that? I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but let me split that. Let me back up into that for a second. Did that flow into something bigger for you that then turned into TTRPGs? Like, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, so that was a big thing that like got me into cards and stuff. Did you ever get into something big like that?
Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like I said before, like my dad and I were always like the ones that were playing stuff. That's like cool. We used to play Mage Knights, which is a miniatures like tabletop game where you have these monsters and Warhammer. If you ever play Warhammer?
Yeah.
It's Warhammer, but it's fantasy. It's before Warhammer.
Okay.
It was called Mage Knight.
That's cool.
And it was fantasy based. So I had like Draconium, like which are basically like Dragonborn people, and like we did it all. So I think that just sort of got me, like plunged into nerddom, and eventually I did everything else except
right, yeah.
Like tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, because what a surprise.
Oh, Amara, you're gonna hate me because I saw your question. I play Red Blue, is it? But my favorite thing to do is play mill decks because I want the other player to hate their life.
You would be that guy.
I had a turn 3 mill deck that would win on turn 3.
I hate mill decks. I hate playing against them, and I love playing them.
I love counter decks, so red blue counter burn, which again you counter spell, so you make people hate their lives, and then you burn them to make them hate their lives. Right, yeah. Or I'd play my mill deck and just my whole goal is to make your deck vanish. So
See, I'm very similar to you because I feel like you and I are both. Well, I feel like a lot of times we go counter to what I think like the hype is for something, right? Like oh, okay, this is the popular Magic deck. I'm gonna play whatever counters it, or like I want to be something different and come into it. So is that why you kind of weaved around D&D for a while? Because it's like, well, that's the main thing everyone else does. I want to find something else different.
It was more of there just wasn't anybody to do it with. Like my friends growing up, none of us had exposure to it. I was the only one, and that was when I was like 7. Yeah, so I don't really count it, but I do.
Yeah. Okay.
And we didn't really get into D&D until a friend of ours knew another guy who was running a D&D game, and he was looking to run a new game. So,
that's actually cool.
As word went around, and we were all like, yeah, fuck it, why not? So my first character was Acadius Thorn, my rogue. So my OOC. And I played in that guy's campaign for like a year and a half until I broke it. Although I like to say I broke it, but he's a giver dungeon master archetype. And there was a couple of decisions that he made late game that really made my character overpowered, and I, took advantage of it. So, but because the game got out of hands, so that was my first player experience. But then at that point, all of our friend group now had experience in it. It was when I was like a sophomore in high school, so like 2006.
So you started in high school playing.
Yep.
Okay. And this was D&D or this was something else?
This was D&D 3.5.
Okay. So that was your first big bite into TTRPGs was D&D 3.5?
It was 3.5 edition, and boy, is it a beefy bite. If anybody's familiar with it, it's a beefy boy.
I love it. Just juice just dripping down like,
oh God, yeah. If you think 5e has a lot of content, you should,
Especially coming from someone who started with Anima Beyond Fantasy too. I feel like I'm similar in a boat, but yet I have had no exposure to other editions. I really want to sink my teeth into something and just experience it for like the sake of it.
3.5 is fun. It's a different animal for sure, but it's a lot more customizable in a way. But it's also because it's more mechanics heavy.
Right.
Which comes with the territory of it being much more customizable. So.
I got a two-part question. The first part would be kind of going back to, so what other TTRPGs did you sink your teeth into, and what other editions have you played? But I'll go with the second part afterwards. You go ahead and answer that first, because I think this steers in a different direction.
So I mean, I've been running games for like 15 years. I've been playing for about 16, 17, and
did you start DMing right after that game? Like it was because like, guys, I'll pick this up.
The game fell apart, and the dungeon master just kind of dropped us a little bit because he was just like, I need a break. Like, we need to figure out how this is even going to work anymore. And I'm like, okay. So, but no, I've played, well, let's start with D&D. So 3.5, 4e, 5e. I've played 2e.
Oh, wow.
I've played a D&D. So I think I've played pretty much every edition. Yeah, I think I've played every edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Pathfinder 1.0, 2.0.
First edition are different though, right?
I think so.
Did you play first edition?
I think they're the same.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I think because it's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, I think is first edition.
Gotcha. Lit?
Yeah, Lit might be able to tell us for sure.
We'll wait for Lit to answer.
But then Pathfinder 1, like Pathfinder first edition and second edition, Starfinder, 7th Sea, which is a pirate game.
Yeah, I want to play that.
Call of Cthulhu, Fragged Empire, MERP, Middle Earth Role Playing, the One Ring system.
Lit gave a very detailed answer. AD&D 1E and 2E are a thing. Then there's D&D Basic, and then there's technically D&D 0E.
Oh god, I've never played 0E then, whatever that is.
I haven't played any of that. Yeah. That's actually really
I have a whole list. Witch Hunter, Shadows of Esteren. I've played a lot. That's why I always, because I always say is like I really wish people would branch out and try their systems, because like 5e is a very good one to learn how to play D&D because it's simple in mechanics, it's easy to pick up. But there are so many other systems where it's like finding your flavor of tabletop RPG that you like.
Which So that was going to be the second part of the question, because I know I'm
big
someone that
brain.
I like to throw in like 5 questions all at once and see like how you navigate it.
You're good.
But
I got a big brain.
I'm the worst host ever. So the question part of that then would be, so you've had exposure to 5e, you've had exposure to the other 3.5, the other TTRPGs. With your exposure of older D&D editions, do you think, I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. So like, for example, we've been sitting with 5e for a while. We might find a really good table that RPs well, that gets really deep. Like I feel like we're in a group right now, like called Netherdeep, that really goes through it. It's not just like, oh, I'm just want to be a sword guy and swing. Like I'm just gonna be, you know what I mean? Like I'm just Eldritch and blast every time. Like we're having characters that are really exploring the racial and the different like mechanics of it. Do you feel like taking a group like that who has learned through 5e, maybe gotten to like the max of the mechanics, taking them back to an older edition would be fun and worth it? Or do you think that it's still a new edition needs to be made that kind of merges the two?
Because you know how I said it, like find your flavor.
Yeah.
It really just depends on the players, and I feel like as a dungeon master, if you play with people long enough, you're kind of familiar with their play styles, what they like, what they don't like, so you can kind of use that to gauge what system would be fun to play.
That's fair.
So I can speak for my group, which again isn't standard across all groups on the internet or in the world, of course, but like I know my group is like a good split between, we prefer the crunchy mechanical, so we like the number crunching and stuff like that, but at the same time we also like the combat and RP. So for them, jumping back to other editions of D&D or more mechanical heavy ones would work, but if you've got a group that just wants to RP, throwing them into a number crunchy system would just slow them down, or they might lose interest in the system altogether. I think that's probably about.
That makes sense though.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm a really weird Venn diagram of like, I love to role play and narratively build, but I love the crunchy numbers too. I just don't let that steer what I'm doing. I like to have that supplement what I'm doing.
Yeah,
so it's hard to find like people that are like that, because I feel like if people like that crunchy stuff and want to tackle that, they're very mechanics heavy. They'd be like, all right, role play is just secondary. You know what I mean? So it's been really hard for me to find that perfect aspect of it. That's why so many people are like, dude, why are you trying to like get past the boundaries of 5e? I'm like, because I feel like it's limiting. Like I want to have fun with a little bit more. I feel like 5e needs to have more of a bite to it. That's why I love doing all the, I mean, you're coming in with a homebrew, like other people doing a homebrew. I'm like, as soon as someone says homebrew and I'm like, oh, it's possible in your game, let me look at it. Like anything outside of the core rules. So that's so interesting.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's really fascinating that like you have that exposure to it and they're able to bring that into DMing, which goes into one of our questions. What do you prefer doing? Do you prefer DMing or playing?
DMing.
100%, not even hesitation.
Yeah, 100%.
You're like
don't
the
get me
first
wrong.
person to say that.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like I love playing because I like being on the other side of the fence, but I prefer to be behind the screen. And I think it's because I like storytelling. I like actually creating the encounters. I like seeing people react and adapt or solve or fight or whatever it is to the situation that I put together. So I much prefer the satisfaction after a session of DMing versus playing.
But of course, getting the opportunity to play when you get a chance, like that's forever. DMs is like 100% sign me up. Yeah.
Yeah, and also Cernan nailed it. Control freak.
Yeah.
This is my world.
So that's a good question, because like I'm someone that I think prefers playing. However, 100% every time I'll take up the DM's mantle. I have a weird thing because I'm like, I only like playing in a game with someone that I feel like can DM better than me. I know that's very narcissistic and very hard. Like I'm a guy that compares and it's bad.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way when you're playing, or is it just that aspect of like, but I just like my world and I like creating sort of thing?
Admittedly, I do as well.
Yeah.
I think because I've been GMing for a long time, I think I've developed a way where I can turn my switch off.
Oh, that's cool.
But being the forever GM, most of the games that I get invited to play in are games where it's like, hey, this is my first game and I wanted to get your feedback on it, so would you like to play in it? So it's like,
good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, are you sure you really want the feedback? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like most of my playing experience has been half GMing because I'm watching the GM, and after the session, like we go into a private VC and we talk about like, okay, so I did this, what'd you think? It was like, I did this, so like, could I have done it differently? And so like very
that
rarely
was half
do I
the
get to
Wild
play
Beyond
a
the
game
Witchlight
where...
was fun, where we got afterwards. I'm like, all right, and it was fun listening to everyone like, hey guys, what'd you think of the book? Because I didn't change shit. Like, it was actually fun to hide behind that too as a DM, and be like, I know I'd change it, but to be like, nah, if you guys didn't like it, it wasn't me. Like, don't look at me.
I didn't write it, so...
Netherdeep's gonna be different because y'all gonna be like, why didn't you change that, Mike? Because I thought it was fine. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool. So, okay. So, how... And you've been DMing, you said 15 years. How many games total? And, like, do you want to talk about Lux at all? Do you want to...
Yeah, I don't mind sharing about Lux.
Yeah, I'm super interested. Because, like, a lot of people know we play in a narrative game that you're running.
Yeah, and a couple of the people in chat here are playing my D&D games, as well as the narrative game that you just talked about too. Which I love the fact. Real quick, just to interject, I love the fact that we're playing in a world that other players have helped interact in. That's the coolest shit ever. I'm sorry, I'm just like, this is so cool. Yep. Yeah, Cernan's one of the people that I was telling that about. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, right. Crap. What was the question?
But yeah, do you want to talk about Lux? Yeah, because Lux was your original world, or did you start in a different setting?
I didn't call it. Oh, actually, you know what? I never brought this up either. It didn't have a name, Michael, until I did my 5th Age campaign. I played for 12 years in my own homebrew world, and it had
that's right.
no
We
name.
talked about this a little bit. Yeah.
So way back when we stopped playing with the one guy, and we decided, it's like, okay, like let's just play with each other here. So somebody else actually took the mantle up of GMing first, because they were like the book guy, they were the rules lawyer. So he was like, well, I already know all the rules, and I'll just do it. So we lasted 1 hour of the first session before he quit. So we were like, all right, I guess we're not playing. And
why do you and I have like
the
so same experience? Because I had the rules guy jump in, and then you're like, oh, you're not good at this world building,
are you? Can't adapt, and he realized that he was being an asshole to everyone. Because he's just like, you can't, like, no, you actually, it doesn't work that way.
That's how I took over too. I was like, I don't know the rules, but I can tell a better story. Why don't you just tell me what to correct? That's so funny.
Yeah, so he did, like I said, we lasted an hour. He quit, and then we as a group, we were just like, okay, maybe D&D's just not for us. And I was like, well, hold on, like, give me a week.
1 hour. That's got to be the shortest.
I was like, bring the same characters back. Gosh. And then John, our friend John, who was GMing, I was like, John, just make a character. Yeah. I'm sure you can. And it's like, and I'll put something together for next week. And that was where Lux started.
And that was
it was one town, and they had one NPC that they talked to, and So
you're the Matt Mercer. You've Matt Mercered your world from one town into this big setting and over timelines and.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it on some of my streams before too, where it's like a lot of people feel like they need to have everything done, and it's like that is so far from the truth that you're only like damaging yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, it does not have to. Like, in my stream, I talked about it being like your scope, like knowing what your scope of the session or the game is. And people that just blow their scope out of the water, and it's like, what's a scope? Like, I've got this and this and this and that, and like, they just can't track everything, and then players get lost or overwhelmed, and then shit just falls apart.
Nice.
So,
yeah. I've done that on stream, and everyone gets to see that happen and me learn it.
Yeah, but it's like
stroke the ego.
Like Lux started in just the one town, Winterfang, and we handled bandits and stuff. And then when the players were ready, they were like, well, what's beyond this forest that's to the west? And it's like, I don't know, let's find out. So we just slowly kept building a map until I had a continent.
That's cool.
And then we resolve things on the continent and further campaigns, like what's beyond the first continent. It's like, there's another one. So we just kept going until, you know, by the 5th age, it's like, what's over there? And it's like, I don't know, let's find out.
That's actually really cool that like you had players that were okay with that.
Oh, they loved it.
That's really cool.
It was because they got a say in the lore and the world. So as we built everything, because like Lux Partum is my fantasy world. It's going on like almost 16 years now of games in it, from like written 5 ages of it, but it's had like 9 campaigns.
That's insane to me. That's so wild.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of
but
like,
it's like
dipping
we would finish
back in
a
the
game.
well is terrifying to me.
Yeah, it's like we would finish a game, we'd start anew right after that.
Yeah.
So like decisions that they made, NPCs that they met, or original characters of theirs who become NPCs. They get to meet all these people. Like people attended their own schools, people went to their favorite taverns, and like every time we brought in a new player, that was one of my favorite parts too, because we'd bring in a new player to the table, and all these other veteran players of Lux are just like, oh, and it's just like, all right,
you
so
get to
it's like,
experience
well,
it for
the quest is taking us to the Tree of Zonhini, and immediately half the table's like, yes, and then the other half of newbies are like, what is that? I'm like, we're going, man. Like, you gotta see this place. We gotta go see Took. Like, yeah, it's like that. That's why GMing cool. to me is so rewarding, because I love people getting excited for shit we made up.
That's gotta be so cool then, like, or like getting a chance to talk to the friends about what we're doing in our narrative campaign.
Yep.
And you get to like talk about that and then like see.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they got no idea.
Yeah,
like,
I was like, they just met Hairball, and then like 3 of them were just like, oh my god, our bro,
yeah,
we love that guy.
Get out of here. Okay.
Oh man, good catch. I was about to say something.
Banhammer.
Yeah, that's my Cernan, the tree protects. Took. Rest in peace, sir.
I love it. I love that so much that you can do that and like bring that in. So like that's got to be so rewarding as a DM, because to me that's terrifying, and maybe that's part of like what I struggle as a DM of like. We actually talked about this before, and maybe we'll talk about it now, of like the 90% bullshit, 10% making it look like you know what you're doing. It's like the idea of like playing in another game of Fates right afterwards, where everything's already set up, the players know everything that we've already done, then trying to give them the illusion of you're a brand new character and here's more to explore. I don't know if I could pull that off, man, of that writing something so fresh yet so relevant in the same world that it wouldn't get boring to them. I think that's fascinating to me that you've accomplished that.
Sorry, I just saw another comment chat.
Concerning.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about that later, I'm sure. I get what you mean.
Best death in a game question coming up. Yeah.
I feel like I probably felt that way too. But once you get up that first hill and like finish that first game and you start the next one, I don't really see it as a continuing hill like up. Like you've got the foundation of everything that you've built. You have so much that you can stand on and so much that you can recall on, that your players can recall on, that there's a lot of the process of when you're building the world that's clunky or slow, because people are like, oh, I forgot that's how that worked, or oh, I forgot that's where he was. It's like people just know, and then that just helps. That gives you more momentum to just throw you guys forward into discovering new stuff, and it just gets added, and it's a very rewarding process, I will say. Like which was sad when we finally retired Lux with the IRL group after 15 years. So Lux is done for them.
And you did that when we met you, right? Isn't that what you were finishing? Like
we
you were
in
wrapping
the
up when we
age,
first met you, right?
Yeah, we
I remember
were in
how
the
emotional you were
campaign.
and like talking about this, and I don't think I understood the grasp of like 15 years. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool. You're finishing your campaign.
Yeah.
Like, good job, buddy. And it was like, nah,
yeah,
fam,
that one
like,
campaign
9 campaigns
was I think 3.5 or 4 years.
That's crazy.
But it was the tail end of 15 of Lux Partum, so it was a lot. And like we had a little farewell session after all of our epilogues where we did nothing but drink, eat, and just like reminisce on it.
I mean, that's
actually
what
my players
wants, though. Yeah, that's like the
my players actually. Cernan was the one who made me 2 cakes. I think I showed you those photos
yeah.
because I had world maps. I had a cosmology map of my universe. So I had all the planes broken down and labeled, but then I also had my world map of the material plane. So he got a sheet cake and got the world map on it. And then we also had the like an 8-inch like circle cake, and that had my my cosmology map on it. And of course we were fighting over the pieces to eat, where it's like, well, Kevin, you died 10 times on Darien, so you better get that piece of cake to get your reward. So Kevin ate Darien.
I am the king of the seas, and I shall bury Darien in my mouth.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it was a lot of fun. So
I love that. That's so cool. That's really cool. I mean, I love. This is why I think I really love doing these interview stuff, is to see. I mean, if you just took what you did as Autumn, I don't think a lot of people or myself would realize the depth of what you have created and other stuff too. So I think it's just, I don't know, this is so cool. This is why I love doing this. But
yeah.
So taking a step back then as well, like let's just say either part of DMing or playing, what's your favorite thing about D&D? Is it combat exploration? Is it the world building? Or was it kind of going back to, like you said, the reactions and interactions of the players?
Personally, I like the world building and stuff, but that I don't really would say is my favorite part.
Okay.
I like the players seeing it, reacting to it, or adding to it. I feel like, because the whole point of D&D is like a communicative sort of game. Everyone is collaborating together to accomplish something, whether that be, you know, solve a puzzle, open a door, or, you know, kill a ancient elder of, you know, of Lux Partum or something like that. Like, you know, it's just, it can be anything. But the collaborative part is, I think, my favorite. Because like when you guys as a group like win by the end of it, even as a GM, like seeing your players like, you know, revel in their success. And like at the end of our 4th age campaign, we literally had a player in our apartment like screaming, and we told him, we're like, dude, you gotta keep it down, we're in an apartment. He ran out the door, ran downstairs, and screamed at like 3 a.m. in like we did it. It's like Jenny, come down, like get back in the house, you're drunk.
So satisfying. That's why I DM. That's like pretty much what keeps me
I love that. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah,
being able to make someone else's day is just very, very satisfying.
Yeah, 100%. That's really cool. So then let's take that out, because that's your DM side of that. What about player? What's your favorite thing as a player to do? Or is it in the same vein?
I like solving problems, whether that's like puzzles or literally combats, as we saw from like, you know, Autumn. Like Autumn's skill at solving problems was making sure that problems didn't repeat themselves. So she would, you know, put an end to problems. But no, like I like solving or fixing or accomplishing something the most.
That's
so RP is fun. I like talking and getting like to know other players and characters and stuff. Combat's necessary, but I also find that like highly enjoyable, which is why I always like to go into narrating my my combat, add flair to it. So I
love that you do that. It's like my favorite thing. I reward my players for doing that, because I love doing it myself. You know, it's
same.
Just like giving flavor to it. That's cool. So is that something why you like RP is because RP not the equation.
It's a collection of a lot of those things.
But like, is it a lot of your enjoyment is because through that you can accomplish something or change something in that world? Is that what, like, that's the aspect of roleplay that you like? That's how you figure out those things, or is it?
I mean, I feel like the world building and the storytelling aspects in RP is pretty much the same, because it's literally what it is. Like it's a narrative storytelling like game. So like that part's the same, so you can still kind of I still get those kind of feelings, especially like when people react to stuff, is like, oh my god, like, you know,
like the character's dead coming back from a mask and reforming in front of them. Yeah, that's the best moment ever.
But yeah, right. But it's also, I mean, it just kind of combines everything, the collaboration part, the storytelling part, the world building part, character development. Like it's all that still wrapped up with a nice shiny bow.
That's cool.
So nice. I mean, you miss out on like the nitty gritty of like, you know, actual like combat on a map where people are moving and interacting, but like that's not terribly important.
But I kind of feel like
you're relying on writing and description.
You can mix that together, which I really like. I really like pushing that aspect of just because we're looking at a combat down phase doesn't mean people have to shut off that role play, right?
Yep.
And I actually like rewarding that. It's like if someone is still role playing or like in that aspect, instead of just that mechanical, like, oh, I roll this and I attack, this is my damage. Like, it's so my next question is, what's your pet peeve in D&D, whether it's DMing or playing? And that's one of mine, is like when someone shuts down any flavor or role play when it comes to combat. But
I have a number. Like, I could go on, but if I had to pick maybe a couple.
Yeah, give me your top 3.
From a GM side, I don't like it when players like are like paying zero attention during combat.
Yeah.
Like when especially because most of my games have been like 6, 7, 8. I've ran a game with 14 people before. Like if you don't know what you're doing on your turn and you're ready to go,
I can't do it.
Yeah, like
I don't like doing
especially
six.
at higher
Like,
levels when combat. Yeah, at higher levels when your turn takes maybe a minute or two. Yeah, it's I just feel that it's rude to other players, because then you're like, oh, like I'm gonna hit him. It's like, well, he's dead. It's like, oh, he is. It's like, yeah, he just died.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, oh, then I guess I'll shoot them. And it's like, okay, well, now they're in melee combat. Would you like your minus? And it's like, oh no, I don't want to do. It's like,
yep. Pay attention.
Yeah. Like, I'm not asking for a play-by-play, but goddamn, watch the screen.
What do you do to fix that? Like, cause me, I'll put you at the bottom of the list and be like, all right, I'll come back to you at the end of the round.
I rarely, unless it's never been so bad that I've had to stop the game. But I've made comments on the game like, guys, please be ready when your turn is when your turn is up. Like, we want to be able to get through this. Or I know I've talked to a couple of people after games. Like, I don't like to do.
Yeah, same here.
If I don't have to do the table talk at the table in front of everybody else, I'll do it in private. So I'll pull the player aside and be like, hey, like that combat, you had no idea what you were doing every round. Like, I get like you're on your phone or like you got a call or whatever, but like, can you,
as a norm,
try to at least actively pay a little attention so that we don't have to recite in the entire previous round of combat so that you can make one decision. I was like,
I had a player I used to play with who would always play spellcasters, but then when their turn came,
not know their spells. Yeah,
they would be like, oh, let me see what spell is perfect for this, and would read the spells, be like, oh, I forget how this works. How does it work? And I'm like, if you don't know, you're not using it. Like,
yeah,
like, no, can't use it. And like the whole table would just yell and be like, oh my gosh, pick a spell.
I actually have a funny story about that too. One of the few times I ever made an item vanish. I've never done that to a player, but one of my players wanted one of the horns of Valhalla in 5e. And it's like, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically there's like 4 levels of it. There's like bronze, silver, platinum, whatever. You blow it and it summons like Valkyrie warriors or whatever, and they serve you. Well, like he told me about the item. He's like, oh, I thought it'd be really cool to have for flavor. And I'm like, yeah, sure, go for it. So he bought it. The first time he went to use it was like the next session. He used it, had no fucking clue how it worked or the stat blocks of all the people. He summoned 14 of them. He didn't know what their attacks were, so he had to figure that out on the fly. He didn't know what their AC, their hit points, nothing. So it took him like 30 minutes to do his one turn. And after the combat, I just kind of leaned over to him and I was like, that item no longer exists. Get your money back. Your character never bought it. Like I'm done. Like that, we're not like even though that you knew some of the stuff now, I was so tilted, and so were the other players. Funny. Like we were just like, I was like, okay, so now he's taking 15 turns, and he doesn't even like his one guy didn't know what he was doing. Now 15 of them don't know what they're doing. It's like, okay, well, you guys want pizza? I'm gonna go drive across the street, and that's a big one.
Yeah, I'm on board with that for sure.
Yeah.
So is that your biggest pet peeve then?
Yeah, players not paying attention or respecting other players, because like even in RP, like again, I never expect somebody to give like a play for play, like, okay, recite the whole story, what happened, but we're all like, the GM sets his time aside to plan, run the game, get everybody together, facilitate everything. So they're doing that. The other players made their characters, everybody has their own intentions that they want to bring to the table.
It's 4
like,
hours,
and it should just be a respectful exchange across everyone, but sometimes it's just not.
And people are looking forward to that game throughout the week. Like that's what they're looking to like enjoy, escape. And if you're in a game where like you get one combat round and the rest of it you're just sitting there like with everyone else, like that's the worst. And you're just like, well, today was a waste. Like this sucked. Yeah, no, I feel that for sure. 100%.
Yep.
So this is an interesting question, and I want to see how it applies to you because like you've played for so long, you have so much experience. Is there something that you've never done in D&D that you've always wanted to do?
No.
Yeah, right. I was curious if that was the question. Like, nah, fam, I'm good.
I've been 100% homebrew from the start. Like back when I played 3.5, I used the stat blocks and stuff in the monster manuals because, not to get on a tirade, but like challenge ratings were far more accurate in 3.5 than they are in 5e, so I could rely on them. But I never used Wizards lore. I never used their characters. I never used any of their stuff. I didn't want it. I didn't want to bother having to read through all this lore to just regurgitate it to players. I would rather just make my own. So
I feel that 100%.
So because I've had that freedom for 15, 16 years, I've pretty much tried everything. So like, I think the only thing I haven't tried is running a module.
Right. Like, I was going to say, we're actually doing what what the lore says to do. Yeah.
Using Wizards lore or running a module. Those are the two things I have not done.
Does that take away your enjoyment then as a player coming into someone running a module? Like
no,
or is that part of what you can turn off?
No, it's because it's all new to me.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good take on it.
They're like, it's the same thing that my players get from me is like, because I don't play by the book and I'm not using like well-known characters or lore or stuff like that. Everything that they meet is new. So like they never go to monster manuals for monsters that they fight. They're like, what the fuck is this thing? Like they roll a knowledge roll. Like, what is it? And I'll give them some base stuff. And yeah, it's not like people are like, oh, that's a troll. We gotta use fire or acid, and then he's resistant to, like there's none of that. So they have no idea what to expect.
I think that's actually something that I think I shortchanged myself as a DM, is I don't go through the DM, like the monster manual, because I want to be surprised as a player. So a lot of times as a DM, like I'll be like looking up stuff and like I do this all the time. Like, what's a fun character to fight in this like domain or whatever. Like I have to look up stuff because I don't already know the monster manual so well. And so it's so funny because like I'll be like, oh, I've never heard of this thing, and like post it in the game, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I fought this. Oh, that's cool. Like,
yeah, oh, that's so cute, Michael. We fought that before, and it's just like, I thought it was cool.
No, I thought it was really cool. I thought it'd be really fun right now because it has mirror image, but it's like an ability and it's different.
I'm just gonna go over here and look at other monsters you've probably fought before. Yeah, like
that's been my biggest I think eye opener as a DM, is like, oh, there are people that read this stuff more than I do. Like, because I don't read it, so it's like I'm a home brewer trying to use like legit stuff, but like I don't know anything either. Like it's fun. Oh, that's so funny.
I hate him.
So what's been your favorite moment in a campaign then? Whether it's through lockdowns.
Oh god,
I know there's got to be so many. What's like the first one that comes to mind?
Well, the first one that always comes to mind are the ones that I GM'd from Lux and my IRL group. Cernan actually joked about it before in chat
run outside
here,
at
but
3 a.m. yelling.
well, no, like there's been a number of like I've shared some of these stories with you already, so I won't share them all again. But I think the vampire monk is a funny one, so I'll tell that one. Mm-hmm. And then the players losing a beloved NPC.
Oof.
And literally having a character like fall under the table crying about it was So
well, then let's put those questions together, because this is what's been your favorite character death to witness. Is that part of that?
Yeah, okay. We'll do that for the next one. So we'll tell the vampire story, because that one's always a funny one to tell. So 3.5 was a wild animal, as I've said before. negative levels were a thing.
Yeah.
Literally negative levels. So if you took this
Not just
damage,
strength, but like the levels.
it is a level, like a minus to your level. So if you're a 9th level fighter and you take a negative level, you're an 8th level fighter immediately.
Can you imagine having to stop the game to de-level something like without D&D? Like I have D&D Beyond, so I'll just like, oh, I'll go and lower that. But like, if you're like writing on a sheet, like the fuck, like I got to go back to an old sheet or something, like.
It was very easy for me in this instance because I made an antagonist and he was a vampire monk. So a vampires, their natural attacks have negative levels. So their claws, their bites. Monks use natural attacks. So flurry of blows.
Oh my god.
So he got I think
That's
it was
so
I think he
messed
got yeah, it was.
I'm like, I don't like this TM anymore. Like,
so my player developed a phobia that carried on to every other character that he made in Lux Partum, and that they were all terrified of vampires.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
So long story short, they had to go to the desert, the Dune Sea, to retrieve this ancient staff of the sands or whatever. So they got it. Well, they found it in a tower buried beneath the Dune Sea. Inside that tower was this vampire who had hoarded all these lost treasures. Mm-hmm. Instead of attacking the vampire, they left him alone, stole his staff, and left. Well, the vampire, when he woke up that night, was not quite too happy.
Yeah, of course not.
So he casts, because he hunts for relics and items for a living, he has locate object.
Right.
Located his staff that was missing, found it in the town like a couple days away. So he made the trip. They were still like talking and waiting for NPCs to show up or trying to figure out what to do with the other loot that they got. So one night, in their tavern, my friend Matt, he was asleep. I had him roll a perception check, a listen check back in 3.5, and he rolled high enough to hear the vampire open the door. So he woke up and I was like, Matt, you wake up and you're pretty sure you heard like your door open and it's cracked. And he's like, oh. And so he immediately rolls out of bed, he's in nothing but his underwear, right? Because he's asleep.
Oh,
so he rolls out of bed and he's like looking around. He grabs his bag, opens up his bag of holding, looks around for something to use, and he's like, and of course the player himself is at the table, like, guy, is it the fucking vampire? Like, did he just? It's like, no, he didn't fucking come all the way over here to find us. Like, how would he even? He doesn't know who took it. He doesn't know where he went. So he grabbed an item that they had called the Map of Discovery, a homebrew item. I'll talk about that later. But he unrolled it, and the Map of Discovery is like the Marauders map. So if you say something, it will locate the closest thing to it. So he opened it up and said, vampire. And I just start losing it. And Matt's like, what? And I'm like, it's right behind you. And he's like, yeah! So flurry of blows. So this vampire who was invisible, flurry of blows, hits him 4 times. 4 negative levels. Ugh. So he went from a level 9 to a level 5. Oof. Initiative gets rolled. 3.5 is an animal. Vampires have improved initiative twice.
Oh my god. So
it's like he had a plus 14 to his initiative roll. My friend Matt had a 2. Surprise, the vampire won. Flurry of blows, 4 more negative levels. Damn. He's now level 1.
Oh my god. Like before anyone else knows that what's even happening.
If you get to level 0, you die.
That's crazy.
Like, so he's freaking the fuck out. So he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm in my lucky underwear. That's it, guys. I have no spells. Like, so he's looking at like all of his stuff, like figuring out what spells he had left. And he's like, I think it's called like Ghost Step is what it was called. But basically you can turn into the ethereal plane and become a ghost for 1 round. So you can travel through walls and stuff. So he ghost stepped. He phased through the neighbor's wall to the other party member and just went, so like they all woke up, like they collected themselves, the vampire fled.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
But then the next day they were like, okay, we got to go kill this vampire now. So they made the trek back out into the desert.
How do you recover your levels? Is it just a long rest, like 5 years?
It requires spells, which they had. They bought scrolls to remove levels, but then also a long rest, I think, gets rid of your... I don't remember the math, but there is a way to get rid of it. So they collected themselves and like, okay, he's going to fucking hunt us. He found us somehow. He wants his staff back. Let's go kill him. And we'll steal the rest of his shit because we were nice. So they start trekking out into the desert. Well, the vampire didn't give up. So he used his vampire power to mind control a traveler
course.
hid in his bag of holding because vampires don't need to breathe. That kept him safe from the sun. So there's just this traveler walking into walking through the desert towards the town they just left, and they're already like, the fuck is this guy? He's like, oh, I'm just a traveling merchant. I'm going to the town to sell some stuff. You interested? Because he was trying to get Matt to open the backpack. Didn't open the backpack. They're like, no thanks, we're in a rush, see you later. So they just kept walking. Well, the vampire tells the guy after they get like, a couple paces away, drop your backpack, keep walking. So the guy just drops his backpack, keeps walking. So Matt, of course, the character I wanted to get was the one that bit, turned around and was like, did he just drop his backpack? And I was like, yeah, maybe he didn't notice it. He had a couple of them. And he's like, okay, I go over to it. And it's like, what is it? It's like, it looks like it's a bag of holding. He's like, oh shit, really? Opens it up. What's inside? And I just start losing it. And he's like, what, do fists come out? And I'm like, yes, they do. And he's like, no. And the flurry of blows out of the backpack. Best fucking they killed him there, but man, that was the funniest shit.
What a perfect intro to like a fight.
Yeah, what do fists come out? I'm like, yeah, they do. Flurry of blows out of a backpack.
I love it. That's amazing.
And then every character since then has had a phobia of vampires.
Oh, rightfully so, in my opinion. That or it'd be like, I want to play a vampire in the future, like, or a vampire hunter, either one.
Yeah. He always had a stake on him at all times and a silver cross for no reason. Are you religious?
So
no,
it's fine.
Always prepared though.
Yeah, my dad gave it to me. Said one day you might need it. Like, that's my
great grandfather spoke of the bag puncher.
Yeah. This has been handed down in our generations from one generation to another. It's been on our mantle every night as we eat dinner. I love that so much. So now you're playing Desmond. Did you want to tell your past experience with Desmond at all, or speak of that?
Yeah, I can a little bit. So
Desmond, we showed the art. We had
I did see that. Yes,
displayed the art.
Desmond's
We're gonna hold back on classes for now, but if you want to talk about his race and just some interactions you had with him before, you can. But it's up to you what you want to reveal.
So Desmond's
yeah, I have a phobia of vampires too after hearing that.
Yeah, so Desmond, like I said, he was originally a character in another D&D game, but he also became an OC in one of my novels that I'm working on.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so he's a human, and you said a little bit maybe about the other, like, because obviously I'm not going to talk about the class or anything, but like
but if you want to talk about like your experience with him and kind of like, I guess more in the relation of like, so you've played with him before, but maybe not to satisfaction. So why, if you want to talk about that, and then why like you're wanting to bring him back here and rewrite him for this game.
So Desmond was a really fun character to play, just because I liked his style. I liked the backstory that I put together. I liked his flaws, which you'll get to see in Netherdeep. Okay. Like he's a good guy. Like he tries, but he's very conflicted. So there's a lot of personal stuff and a lot of like moral questioning that goes on. So he should be a fun character to play, which he was. But the problem in the other game, like the GM did a great job. It's just that the players that I was with, one of them is like a attention hog. And like we went through this whole campaign, like we got to the ends, and not to go on a long tangent, but like we were supposed to attain like the staff of Jordan. And like it was said that like you could whoever claimed the staff was granted a wish from God. So anything, right? But we all know how wishes work, right? So one of the players went against his character, which I hated. Went against the character's like relationship with the players or the other characters, which I hated. So he was a paladin. He's our front line. Runs past the big bad evil guy to leave us, goes and claims the staff, and then he had this pre-written script of what he wanted to say. Like,
right,
it was,
so
I
the
kid
player
you not,
had a pre-written
yes,
script before the
player
game.
Had a pre-written script for, like, so he knew this was going to happen. There was no doubt in his mind. He left us behind, and he got the staff. And his freaking minute, I kid you not, a minute and a half. Like, I'm just like, are we done? Like, what else? Like, I wish for world. Like, he blew the wish.
Wow.
Like, there was probably like 20 or 30 wishes like piled in there. And the GM, even at the end of it, was like, you vanish. And then they went into a VC and they talked it out. And he came back and he was like, so you guys see so-and-so, he grabs the staff and he starts reciting these wishes and he's gone. And I'm like, what about the other things we were gonna wish away? Like, this thing that we're fighting that's gonna destroy the world, is that still here? It's like, yeah. It's like, alrighty. So Desmond went out like a champ. He fucking broke the rod of Aaron and nuclear striked everybody, so because he was gonna die. So the other two players died because I couldn't stop him from dying. So it was just Desmond and this entity, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, bro.
Basically,
so we made it,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so we TPK'd it, and then we went to the other side where the player who grabbed the staff or the rod of Aaron, or the rod of Moses. I don't even remember at this point. I think it was the rod of Aaron, and I had the staff of Moses that I broke. But yeah, we went to his ending, which
but only that player went, right? Like, none of the other players went with you.
Yeah, all of these. Yeah, it's like, I don't blame the GM, because the GM played how he should have.
You're supposed to react
when a player does something like that. It kind of sucks, but it happens, and the GM wasn't going to hold back punches. So
right.
But yeah, so we went to, like, his wish after it was done. Everything was gone. Everything was peaceful, and like he turned around and like we were there, but it was like we looked a little different. Like, basically went to a different universe where none of those things he wished existed. So I was like, not only did we not finish the campaign, but you ruined it.
Yeah.
And you let us all die because you were selfish. It's like, you're a horrible person, and I hate you. So I retired Desmond because I was so mad, because I was just like, God fucking damn. Like,
which is just wild to me.
We all had backstories, we all had stuff we wanted to accomplish, and it's just like, nope, he just took a massive shit on it. So that's when I started writing, because I was like, I'm not sasatisfied with that. I'm writing Desmond.
Okay.
So I started writing the book.
You wanting to write that? Yeah.
Yeah,
like, nah, I'm writing my own ending.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was like, fuck it, man. Desmond's not dead. I loved him.
So quick spoiler for anyone that wants to watch Called Netherdeep. That's how this is going to end. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna do it this time. It looks so enjoyable.
Getting revenge, bitch.
Yeah.
The player's not even in the game. Good. Other players are like, what? Why are you so mad, dude? Like, no, man, I'm getting back at you. It's gonna happen. Got him. Yeah, that's so rough. That's why I remember at first I was like, I don't know if this mainly fits in the game. And then you told me that story and your love and investment into the character. I'm like, nah, we're gonna make this work. We're gonna find a way to mold it into this world, because I want to give you a new way and a new chance to play that. Because I mean that's how Ambrosius was for me. Not Ambrosius, Mithranon. My first Mithranon was an unsatisfactory way of playing that character in the game file. So to be able to replay him in Beacon's Aura has been so satisfying to do. So yeah.
Yeah, the GM even apologized to the rest of us afterwards, and when I started writing that book, I was still talking with him. So I was like, hey, do you want to proofread something for me? He's like, yeah, sure. He got the first chapter and was like, oh, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
He's like, I'm so happy for you, and I'm like, thank you.
So then that kind of goes into a little bit more of campaign-centered questions then. So you're bringing Desmond back in. We talked about this with the other players, but you don't have as much exposure into the Critical Role world, right? In the setting here, zero.
Yes, none. So, I'm as familiar with it as I am Wizards.
And I know Brittany and I have okay, well, your character can fit here, and this is what's happened, and this is how can shape. You're okay, buddy.
Plant me in the world and tell me what I should know, and I'll go from there.
I'm like, hey, man, you do need to know, because you're interacting with a lot in this world that I'm building in.
Yeah, you
I
got
love
that
it.
handy sheet.
Yeah, no, I love what you've done and taken like what's happened to him in another setting and able to mold that into this one. That being said, without spoilers, because I'm super excited for what that means for you and in this world, because I kind of like the idea of the character not understanding the consequences of what he's done either, right? So you get to play that out of Desmond being like, oh shit, I didn't even realize the consequences of like, or the dominoes that fell because of all this. So
Yep.
what are you most excited about? Looking forward to this campaign, bringing Desmond in, and you know, besides of course playing with me, you know, Cinnabon.
Yeah, I mean, playing with you,
egotistical,
Brittany,
of course.
Megan,
Yeah,
and Brett,
you know.
everybody. Just we're just gonna, yeah.
But like, yeah, we all know that shit. Yeah, we all like playing with each other. But what?
I mean,
like,
I always enjoy. I always enjoy exploring new worlds and stuff. So it'll be fun to see. It'll be fun to see something new.
Okay.
Which again,
how
I like.
Alexandria looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's. I feel like it's different from like some modules are very narrow in their scope, like I talked about earlier, and like they're very, very hard on what you have to know and what you don't.
Yeah, the Witchlight was Prismeer, like
yeah,
Carnival Prismeer, like you're not doing anything else.
Yeah, which that was good to like keep the game going and stuff, but there wasn't as much like opportunity to explore, which is a big aspect of the player that I enjoy doing. So I look forward to like, you know, taking a journey, going to different towns and meeting new people or having to behave differently around other people, like certain people. Cool. And so, yeah.
That's going to be really big here, because that's one thing I like as I've like read the module and read this is like, you guys are taking a huge journey. And like, I kind of think there's a lot of that Lord of the Rings. We talked about this with the One Ring. They actually have exploration like rule sets. There's a
phase called the journey phase.
I'm gonna go back to the One Ring, and because like there's parts of this book that are journey, and like I've already looked at other people who play this, and like this is the weakest part of the book. I'm like, ha, bam, we're going One Ring with this shit. Like, so I'm really
I've employed the One Ring stuff in my own games. I love it that much. It's so well thought out. I tried to do it with Fates. So good. I messed up with not giving enough attention, and then doing my map with like a length and then like changing it afterwards, be like, nah, this doesn't serve the story. Like, you get an airship, whatever. Wait, that took us 2 days and that took us a week. Don't worry about it. It's like the Feywild, it changes. Yeah, it was downhill, uphill. Get off my day.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's why I'm excited about this, because like they've actually already built that in, and it makes sense for the world because they've already done it. They already have these official maps and shit. So that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna go over a long journey on one continent, but then you guys are gonna go to a whole nother fucking continent too. So that's super cool.
I'm excited.
And actually, technically, your backstory serves on a third continent. So yeah, we got like a whole lot of shit going on in this game. Actually, I'm really excited about that too. I think potentially seeing what's gonna come out of this module, and if we make this a broader game than what the actual module like says, you know what I mean? And I'm sure we will by the end of it. Knowing you guys, yeah, who've already said first game, fuck your story, we're going to Tal'Dorei. I'm like, oh, okay, let me grab that book out. Like, that's cool. So yeah, so it's more like the exploring the world and the setting, you think, for your character? Yeah, I like.
I mean, that's outside of D&D. I like learning new things. I like seeing new things, different things, experiences. So having the ability to do that in D&D through the eyes of another character is another layer to it. So
fun. I like that. That's actually the first time I've heard that answer. So that's cool.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So we talked about that Desmond is a return character. So let's talk about your character creation process. That's what we were talking about in the beginning of this. And whether you want to use it for Desmond specifically or the first time you made Desmond, but like, what's your process when you're creating a character?
Well, first I figure out where I'm playing. So like if I'm making a character for my games, I'm familiar with my own setting and stuff. So I normally start there. But that's why when we first started, you know, talking about characters for Netherdeep, I was like, okay, what's the vibe? What's the vibe of the campaign, the setting? Like if you could break it down to a couple sentences, what would that be? Because that kind of helps me figure out like a theme or a style to aim towards, and then from there, I take that theme and I start piecing together ideas below that curtain until I build something that I'm
want
satisfied
to sink into
with.
the world, so you wouldn't play something that doesn't interact with the world at all. Yeah,
I'm playing an engineer that pilots a mech, and it's like, okay, where the fuck did that come from? Right. I thought it was funny.
My dad created it. Yeah. You were the one person in this forest who created it. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Actually, I had someone do that when they're like, it was when the Artificer came out, and they're like, I'm an Artificer Iron Man, but we're from a isolated forest.
Yeah.
Like, where the technology came from? My dad created it. Okay.
All right, we're stepping back even more. Where'd he get it?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
An alien ship crashed down and gave him the knowledge. There it is.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wow, you're really okay. We're not even gonna tackle that at all. Let's magic wave hand that one.
Yeah, right.
I was like, yep, you created a thruster out of bark and rocks.
And sheer will.
Yeah. So you find the theme and all that. Do you do like class and mechanics before you do personality and all that, or do you flip-flop that?
I do the mechanics parts last. So I figure out what I want to play before I figure out how I play it.
The same way. Yeah.
So like I said, I start with the curtain theme. I pick maybe some archetypes or styles, like am I gonna be melee or spells or healer, like whatever that might be, and then find things that complement the style for the theme.
Right.
And that kind of helps me figure out the character, and then I figure out what class would best
kinda
facilitate
like between that back and forth until you figure something out. That's cool.
Yep, and that's how we landed on Desmond. So,
that's fine.
Although I will admit, his was a little bit easier because I already built him before, ideas, but I went through that same process already. So,
but I mean, like, I think it makes sense. I mean, especially when you're a forever DM, or you've played so many like games that like failed, like I've done, where it's like, oh, I already have a Rolodex of like concepts and players and builds, and it's like,
yeah,
cool. Let me take that, renew it, refresh it, and see what else I can do from it and bring it to satisfaction before I can
or using NPCs that I've wanted to build as characters in other people's games. So
I think all of my Fates NPCs are basically those, or like, yeah, I've always wanted to do this to see how it works and they die in one round. Okay, well that's never happening again. Like,
well, the party's not interested in them all. They'll never show up again.
that happened to one of my characters. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna turn like this character concept in. I'm gonna break it down. They're gonna love this guy. And then like, okay, cool, we're leaving. I'm like, but he's got so much more. You don't love. Okay, that's fine. That will show up in another campaign. Like,
it happens.
Or like when it's the vice versa of like, hey, what's this guy's name? And I'm like, I don't know, Bri.
Bob.
And then like, oh, we love him. And it's like, oh, I need to figure out a backstory for Carlos. Like, okay, like he was the funny accent guy. You know?
Yep.
It's so much fun.
You never know what your players will latch onto.
Yep. Or like, a barbarian furball who eats. What was he eating in that alleyway?
He had a bucket of crab.
Crab, that's what it was. You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
I think Hairball is one of my favorite NPCs. And I hated him at first too. And
the IRL group
I'm not gonna get
loved Hairball. That's why when I told them that you guys met him in the narrative game, they were all like yes. Like they dragged him along. He was their bro for like a year.
Now.
Like yeah. So for everybody who's not aware, Hairball, his name is Harinold Ballingrad, or Hairball for short. But he's a homebrew race called Banefolk, which is from my setting, which is basically like small-sized cat humanoids. So it's they stand on two legs, but they still have most of their cat-like features. And each sub-race, like Hairball, for instance, is a Maine Coon, so he's a big, fluffy motherfucker. But he's also wildly obese. He's a barbarian, and he has quite the temper that matches his hunger. So he does nothing but just like heavy breathe and eat. And when he rages, once he's done, because he's not healthy, he always, in my mind, is exhausted, like mechanically speaking. So when he's done raging, he gains another level of exhaustion, passes out. So every combat they take Hairball to, he fights, they're done, he's like, oh God, I'm ready for and just
normally
falls
what
asleep.
gets him into a rage is like somebody like knocking food out of his hands or something like that. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's like he'll always start fighting, but then it's as soon as he loses the food, it's like, oh yeah, shit, I want to rage.
Well, that was the first scene you guys saw him fight too, and I loved writing that.
Oh
I was
God.
dying so hard writing that because like he took the bucket of seafood that got kicked over and slammed it on the guy's head, slammed him into a wall. Like it was
the best scene ever. I was like, oh my, because I hated that character up to that. I was like, this is the most useless. Like I don't like animal folk in the first place, so I'm not invested.
He's licking his fingers and rubbing grease on his
disgusting. Like my character has nothing to do with him, and yet, and like even on the ship, he's like not doing much. And then all of a sudden, he wrote that scene. I'm like, I love him. I don't care about my character. I'm gonna meta him liking him now. Like this is going to change. He's amazing.
he's such a champion.
Like in my head, I'm just waiting
Netherdeep, but...
in my head to let another character like Clint or Silence character to tell Ollie about what Hairball did, because then it's gonna be like, oh okay, what's up fam? Like, let's go. I love it. It's so good. It's like the first time I've ever had myself love a character so much that I had to make my character like him. You know, like I don't really have a good reason for it, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah, Hairball. He's not even my favorite NPC, but he's such a clutch one in my book. I love him so much.
So much fun to play. I think it's gotta be. It's so good, so good. Talking about inspirations for your games. Do you ever choose from or pull from like inspirations, like games or books or other modules, other games that you've DM'd? Like what's your like well that you go back to a lot?
So I'll add this too, just because I think maybe some people might need to hear it. There really is nothing wrong with getting inspiration from other sources, because those sources are not also original.
Yep.
Like, I can't remember
from other things.
I can't remember where I saw it, but like somebody broke it down, and it's like there are like 23 hierarchical archetypes for storytelling that you can summarize the millions of like pieces of literature, stories, movies into. Like man versus man, man versus God, God versus man, like man versus nature, nature versus man, like these archetypes. And it's like you can tie anything that you've ever read to one of those 23. So don't feel bad that you're making your own, because you know. But yeah, I mean, it depends on the genre, of course, but I love fantasy. I love high fantasy, which is what Lux grows into as the ages advance. So like the 5th age where you guys are, I mean, there's electricity, there's modern things in the world. It's like a Final Fantasy kind of style is the easiest way that I describe it. So
did your other games, were they that modern, or was this the first push into modernism with it?
The 5th age was the first push to like modern. So only one of the campaigns in the 15 years was that modern. The rest of them there was like an industrial era, because like the dwarves in my setting have always been the industrial ones, and like the 4th age there was firearms, there was like the entry of laser weapons, because like Hell Crystal powered like guns and stuff, but that was as close as it got, weaponry. But 5th age is like, hey, we have flushing toilets and lights in our apartment. Like, we live in a condo. And it's like,
someone got mad at me. Like, they were saying, like, electricity and lasers cannot, like, live in D&D. I was like, that's bullshit. If you have the light spell and sunbeam, and you're saying no one's going to figure out a way to make that happen with enchanted items on top of mechanicalism or, like, the artificers, like, that's such bullshit. So, yeah, that's why I think I lean to such as, like, Magitech, like world, like allowing stuff like that.
But yeah, it's like drawing inspirations from, I mean, obviously Lord of the Rings was a big impact on my fantasy side. But even outside of other like fantasy stuff, like I don't know, like The Witcher, I'm drawing blanks at other things right now. I'm only thinking of sci-fi, like, you know, Mass Effect and Star Trek and other stuff like that. But
even then, you can pull inspirations too and just put them in a different setting. I mean,
just adding your own twist or tweak to things makes it your own, especially if you're implementing it differently. So
Yo,
go
we
for
could totally
it.
sit here just start doing like DM tips and like deep
I
dives
know.
and oh wow,
Maybe when I start streaming
you and I
again,
are really good at streaming stuff like that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe when I start streaming again and we do procrastination, I can get back to actually talking about those kind of things.
Hell yeah. Well, I love it. Is there anything else you want to touch on, kind of about what you're excited about creating or inspirations, or even just D&D experiences before we kind of start wrapping this up? Or anything you want
I'm excited.
people like people that get to watch you as a player, that's something that maybe people don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I got to show one side of me with Autumn. So for everybody that watched the Black Powder Hussy, that's definitely me making a character that's very much into the combat aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Which makes
I mean, she
sense.
RP'd and did stuff too, but I didn't force her into situations and things. Desmond, with his conflicts and other moral compass issues, is going to be a little bit different.
That's fun.
So I'm excited for people to get to see that side of like my characters as well.
I think
for people that aren't familiar with my kind of characters or writing.
The biggest shock for seeing that was with that one episode where Brittany wasn't there, because Brittany's like the only player in character that will stop you guys from like shooting first and asking questions. And I had like this one NPC that showed up and I was like, oh, well, maybe they'll get some boom one shot. I'm like, all right, first round dead. You get no information on this. Like, sorry. And I loved it because like that's part of the game of like allowing it as a DM, but it was so funny just to see like, I know for you as a player, that's not your only way of playing, but like that's what the character would do in that moment. So it was fun to have like, I was like kind of waiting like, well, someone else would be like Brittany and Rhea and jump in, and everyone's like, nope. Like, are you non-lethaling taking out their knees? Nah, headshot bit. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, Autumn has one mode, lethal.
Yep. That was so much fun. I loved how like everyone tackled on with that too. They're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm also excited to get to play with some new people. So Megan and Greg. So excited to get to play with you guys.
It'll be fun to have a rotation to see how you guys interact with them, because I've played with them both offline and with the one shot with other people, but like one shots don't count in my opinion. Like you can't really flesh into all that, you know. So
yeah, they do and they don't. Yeah, I would agree.
But I mean, like in a campaign setting wise, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That's why I was like, I think I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's super fun. Yeah, I think it's going to be great to have 2 returning players and 2 new players and actually see how that interactions are going to develop. So
yes, I am very excited.
Well, Nick, I'm excited for bringing you back at the table. You're awesome. I've loved interacting with you. You and I have sat for countless hours and talked our worlds and our games and stuff. So I'm excited for you to bring in Desmond. What's the last thing you want to tease? Give a little teaser of Desmond, of what people to expect without spoiling. I feel like
without
I got one.
Spoiling?
But do you want to?
Well, I was just gonna say, it's like I don't think I need to because it literally in the tavern there are 3 chapters written about him.
I mean,
so
that's fair.
If someone is so inclined, there literally is written stuff about this character already. So
do you want to tease maybe anything about a traveling friend or anything? Or do you want to save that for game?
No. One of the moral compasses one of the conflicts that Desmond has is very physical and loves to talk about him and make fun of him. So
that's a good.
So we'll see.
A good teaser without spoiling anything. I love it. Well, thank you, Nick, so much. Thank you guys so much for dropping in and supporting us for tonight's game.
Yes.
This is insane. We've just gone through our player interviews. Next week is going to be the premiere and the first quasi session of all of the Netherdeep. So you guys definitely don't want to miss it. Next week, next Wednesday, July 6th. What is it, July 6th? Yeah, right? It's next week, right? My calendar felt weird for a second.
The 4th is Monday.
Because I was sitting there, I was like, no, it's still June. It's the 29th. No way it'll be the 6th, but next Wednesday. So guys, really. Enjoy your July 4th for the weekend. Enjoy the fireworks. Enjoy all the stuff, because next Wednesday, we're going to have fireworks with Marquee Gaming, Rachel and Mark. We got Rapaziel and John coming in to bring life into the Rivals one-shot to show the NPCs that Nick and everyone else are going to interact with on there. So definitely drop by, I'm excited for the players to get to see the NPCs without your characters doing it. I think that'll be really interesting because like I've watched everyone else interact with them as like not knowing who they were when you first start the game, and then like that weird meta of like, I know this person's important but I don't recognize it, so they miss, like every single person's like, oh, I missed that, I should have interacted more. So I'm doing it the opposite because I want you guys as a player to know like, oh, maybe I can steer into this more because the DM's giving up something. So yeah, I'm super excited just to see how it'll play out. But Canadian's birthday is first. Sorry, my bad. All to you know, sorry, all the Canadians' birthdays.
Yeah, sorry, dear.
Yeah, sorry.
Make sure to have some maple syrup and mousse on us.
Oh, you betcha. I got my maple syrup right there in the kitchen that I got from Amara Vexel, and it's gonna be a great one. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. But anyways, I don't know where this is going. But join us next week for the Rivals one shot, and then the week after for Nick and Brittany's character intro session. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be crazy. And then afterwards will be Good Deeds and Amara's character intro, and then in 3 weeks we'll have all 4 of you guys premiering the first episode. So definitely you guys want to join in July. July's gonna be a fun Call the Netherdeep game month for the game. And then tomorrow we're doing Fates United back here on the channel at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy. Let's see. Oh yeah, Carlos is waiting at the tavern for everyone. So just wanted to see what they all say. But thank you guys so much for joining in. We're gonna go ahead and do a raid as we always do. But let's first sign off for YouTube. So thank you guys so much. If you haven't, consider checking us out at our YouTube. This will be on VOD tomorrow. So if you love Nick, or if you don't like Nick and you just want to shout out and make put everything out on social media and make people comment on how amazing and fresh his hairdo is, consider sharing our video tomorrow so people can know what kind of amazing players I get to play with. That being said, we're gonna go ahead and raid our friends Evendale. They are playing their homebrew game, their Victorian Untimely Heroes, and they're super supportive and super amazing of this channel. So I wanted to kind of throw back to them. So that being said, let's go ahead and raid them. As always, you guys are amazing and you show us the love and support, and I appreciate it. So we're gonna send the Bardic Barrage and send our love and respect over to them. I love you guys so much. We'll see you next week. Be awesome. Bye guys.